What's going on, everybody? It is David Allen with the Common Threads podcast here with my business partner, the creative genius, Chris Callen. And we are on episode 2 of the Common Threads podcast. Really excited about everything we have going on. The last couple weeks in business have been absolutely crazy. Our marketing company, marketing agency has taken off. All of a sudden 2021 has looked completely different than 2020 and everything that's happened thus far throughout the last 13 months now. So excited to have everybody listening. Appreciate all the feedback from the last episode, and we're going to continue to do our thing and provide you more information and continue to show you behind the scenes of what it's like to truly grow a business. And excited to share a couple potential things that we have on the horizon, as well as some really massive projects that we've recently got into. And, we'll kind of voice all that stuff throughout the episode as we talk about some of the feelings of a startup, some of the emotions that we have in a startup, and then also the most rewarding side of all this stuff, which is the feeling of being free and knowing that your business is going to make it. And now it's just figuring out to that level of business that we can take that. So excited to have you on here again, Chris, as always. And it's been a hell of a year to start so far, right?
Yeah, I'm not used to January kicking off with so much firepower and things that we have to do. It's been a not a lot of sleep so far in 2021, but I'm into it, and that's part of that's what goes into being a startup. And you kind of have to know you're not going to sleep a lot. You're going to be glued to a device of some kind, and it better be fun for you, or it's going to be very tough mentally.
Yeah,
and physically.
So we had a big meeting yesterday with a client of ours that we just brought in, and they're going to be a business partner of ours at some point in the future. And it's actually a great friend of ours from the marketing company, and also a personal friend of mine, Shawn Michaels, who's a very successful entrepreneur. And he will be on one of the upcoming episodes really telling his story, but he was able to grow a business from $900 to, one business growing to 80 million in annual revenues, and another business, I think 50 to 60 million in annual revenues. So a lot of great stuff happening, and very excited to have him to hear a little bit more of his story. And, so that was where we were last night. And I remember, Chris, you pulled up yesterday and right before the meeting, and I just looked at you and I could just see you just looked exhausted with everything going on. And so just kind of talk a little bit, man, about all that, the feeling of, because a lot of the stuff that we're doing right now is just heavily on your shoulders from a creative standpoint, from a direction standpoint, and from an overall guiding the marketing agency ship standpoint. So a lot of this does kind of fall on your shoulders from the trust with Derek and myself to make sure we're doing it the right way, which is what you think.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to, if you love what you do, you'll give it as many hours as it needs each day, and not feel like you're getting beaten down or losing any kind of excitement about it. So for me, this is stuff I've been doing my entire adult life. So I love it. It's fun, and I don't get too stressed about it. And I'm used to the crazy deadline world of what we do in advertising. So, if you have to work 6 a.m. to 5 a.m. the next day, that's kind of normal when you work in advertising. So it's been relatively a smooth transition for me in that regard. I guess the big difference is now this is, my name and our name attached to things directly. I'm not a part of a grand big team that, your name is just one bullet point far down, and you're not the one whose name's on the door in theory, but now our names are on the door. So there's a lot of pride that goes into that, so that if something needs to be a certain level of perfection or take something to a next level, but that means I need to put an extra 6 hours in that day and it's already 9 o'clock, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm not even going to think twice about it. So that's part of the mental head game you kind of have to go through in a startup, is know that that's going to be a part of it, be okay with it, and kind of prepare yourself for it. So it's kind of like an athlete preparing for a game or a season or a triathlon or something. It's mental and physical. And in a startup, you have to kind of prep your mind to be able to work on a million different things at once with as much time as you have in a day. And it wasn't easy earlier in my career, but at this point, I don't wake up thinking, holy shit, how am I going to get this all done?
Right.
I wake up and I tell this to everybody I know that owns a business or works in the same field I do. If you just train your mind to sense everything will be fine and everything will get done.
Yeah.
As a mantra, your stress level will decrease and your blood pressure will go down, because I can think of a million times in my career where before I had that ingrained in me, I might wake up and be like, whoa, this is going to be rough.
Right.
Or it's 8:00 and I haven't even started on 3 things yet. How is this going to happen? But as long as you keep that mantra in your mind, it just keeps pumping you.
Yeah.
And, because at the end of the day, this isn't heart surgery. This isn't brain surgery. It's advertising. It's just something that comes from here, comes from data, and then comes out into something that is creative.
Right.
So it's fun. So as long as you remind yourself it's fun, and you could be doing something for 20 hours a day for a living that is not fun. Like a lot of people, I'm sure, do have to.
Right.
So I'm kind of grateful to be able to do this. So
the one thing that's kind of interesting is where we differ drastically, right? Is we have the trifecta between you, myself, and Derek, from how we all handle things, our personalities. I'm the 1000% optimist of the group, and Derek is, I think, realist but pessimistic is kind of how I view it, right? And then you definitely balance us between very, very well. So, everybody handles situations different. Everybody handles experiences different. I'm the where I sit on that pole is, something like that may throw me off course, or if I have a crazy deadline, like I thrive on that, and I love that. But I get high stress, but in a good way, because I get excited about something that's coming. I'm looking forward to kind of, hey, this is a strict deadline, or this is very hard to do. There's not enough time in this, and being able to pull something off in that capacity is really, really cool. Mm-hmm. So the reward, or the high that I get from that feeling is knowing that I trust myself, trust the business partners that are around me and the team that we have, and that there's really nothing that we can't accomplish. That's the coolest thing about it is you wake up every day. I mean, I haven't had a job since 2015, and that's how I feel. And I feel every day has been a Saturday for me. Even in the beginning phases when, things were really, really tight financially from us, and I didn't know where I was going to, get money from, and we didn't know where the bills were going to get paid, and how we were going to sell more suits or get more clients in, and that drives me as well, which is the exciting part of entrepreneurship, is kind of the unknown and being able to steer the ship through the chaos, the icebergs of whatever you want to call it, and be able to be successful from that standpoint. So it's cool. It's everybody has a different way that they handle those things.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was a kid, I was probably a little bit more into the, anxious side of the spectrum, I think. And, it wasn't until I really kind of, I guess you could say, found my being, but, I just leaned on what I knew was always going to come through for me as a kid up through now in my mid-30s is creativity. If you sit me in front of a chalkboard and throw a million math problems on the board, I'm going to get a little sweaty and freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
But if there's any type of problem you put in front of me that I can figure out a way with a creative lens, then I know I'll be fine.
Right.
And even in the last probably 5-6 years, I even leaned on really getting deep in the practices of Buddhism and kind of controlling my own mind. And it's a daily practice for me, transcendental meditation as well. I've had people ask me for years, how do you stay calm all the time? And it's a lot of all of those things working together, because the joke is if I won the lottery, or if I found out that there's an asteroid heading for Earth in 20 minutes, my reaction's the same.
Right.
It's just kind of,
we'll find out soon about that.
It'll just be, that's not good, that's not bad, it just is.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to my philosophy of everything will be fine and it'll all get done.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes when I know you're in a celebratory mood, I'm just kind of like in my head wondering maybe what I'll go home and make for dinner.
Yeah. So but to that though, It's crazy because I'll talk to people and they're like, hey, aren't you proud of this or aren't you proud of that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm the type of person that whenever I get something that gets me going or gets me jazzed up to think that, hey, this is another opportunity, this is more money that we can bring in, this is more something we can help, other people, whatever it is, I take it to the full execution in my mind that I can envision it from A to Z all the way through. So it gets me super fired up, but then give it an hour or 2 hours, then all of a sudden, boom, back to normal. Mm-hmm. And then I don't talk about it again. I don't celebrate any of that stuff. So it's weird. I don't bask in anything like that, but I definitely, I can feel the vision going on. I could feel everything happening and I could see where it can go just by trusting me and you and Derek and our team on what we can accomplish.
It's like the coaches always told us back in football or any of the sports we played, you got to have a short memory. And whether that's a good thing or bad thing, you can't come off the field after scoring a touchdown and think that you're a god,
or miss a tackle and they score a touchdown, right?
Yeah, you got to quickly move on from that and stick to what you do well, and that goes into, I think, the startup mentality as well, which is and you can certainly attest to this more than anybody, that the highs are very high and the lows are very low, and I think if you allow yourself to be overcome by either one of those spectrums, you're going to miss out on what's next.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to keep pushing forward and know that each win or each loss is a necessary stepping point to the next piece of the puzzle. And that's another meditative Buddhist type of practice that I like, which is no matter where you are is where you're supposed to be.
Well, and so we've been talking and going through a lot of things through the last half of 2020. It's been an incredible start for 2021. I mean, this year's been a dream for us so far. It's surreal to sit back and be like, oh man, this shit's actually happening. But then you're like, okay, I knew it would happen. It just now is that, okay, this is the now that it's happening. So it feels really, really good. And the importance of mentality and the importance of where your mind is throughout the entire process is probably the most valuable and most crucial element of who you are as an entrepreneur or a business owner or a person, whatever it is, because everything that we do is literally 95 to 90% mental. Mm-hmm. Doing work and getting shit done in a timely manner is anybody can do that. It's just hours, right? Mm-hmm. But it's being able to look at a bank account and see negative dollar sign, or to be, hey, my bank account has $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000 in it. And I look at my bills and I have $50,000 there, $10,000 there that outweigh what my actual bank account has. That throws a lot of business owners off because it makes them make irrational decisions throughout the process instead of really saying, okay, cool, Chris's philosophy, hey, it's going to work out, figure it out, take your time. And that is true in a situation like that. Things work out the way they're supposed to work out, and things work out how they're meant to work out, which is awesome.
And to that point, whether that's a personal philosophy or a business philosophy, at some point it's going to make you feel invincible. It's just your own personal amount of grounding determines whether that invincibility feeling is a positive or kind of a facade that's going to put you in some bad situations.
Right.
So when you have that with a good foundation, you know that the positivity you put out there and things like that are going to subconsciously make you feel like everything's going to end up where you want it to be. But if you have that philosophy and you're kind of a playboy a little bit with it, yep, then you're kind of playing with fire.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been an important thing to us, and we talked about this last week about the humble side of things. So I think when you pair all those philosophies together with a good foundation, it just gives us that sense of a very strong armor that we know it's going to get dinged up, but it's not going to crack.
Yeah. Well, when we, to give everybody an idea of without going into too much detail, we had a projection of a certain number that we wanted to hit as a marketing agency by the end of Q1. And we have surpassed that in day 6, 7 of January. And now our next goal, which we switched around to like a June, July timeframe, is 3 to 4 times what that actually was from the initial plan of how 2020 was kind of going. And you look back at all these conversations that we've had since we started this, and through your network and my network and Derek's network of people, we're just continuing to fill up opportunities to meet. And they all are seeming to happen now, the ones that we've cultivated a year and a half ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Even the protein bar opportunity, I remember we sat down, that had to have been early 2019, springish, I would assume around then, or the end of 2018. And we had a huge opportunity to sit down to do some marketing for them at that point, and it just didn't work out. And now you fast forward a year and a half later, the skill set that we've picked up in that time frame, the opportunities that we've gained in that time frame, and now it resurfaces where I think we can be 10 times deadlier of a marketing agency than we were at that point.
And a big part of that too is when things do fall off, keeping that mindset of that's okay, because that just means the next thing's right around the corner. So when that opportunity ended up not being needed at that time a couple of years ago, it wasn't a loss. It wasn't a losing effort. It was just a step.
Right.
And then even towards the end of 2020, there were things that we were thinking might pan out in other directions, and they didn't. And for a moment, it felt like okay, crap.
It sucked the wind out of you.
But then within a day or two, you realize, thank God that did not happen, because what was behind door number 2 is twice as big and more fun and no headache. So you just can't get hung up on the spectrums of emotion in this. Really, I think, in my opinion, any business, but
right.
in the one that we're living in, it just trying to stay even keel kind of can just be a weapon for you.
Yeah, and a couple tips for any entrepreneurs that are listening, business people, or anybody that just loves the science behind business, right? That's the value, and this is even good for sales reps, the value of CRM systems, the value of keeping clients organized, the value of staying on top of these things are huge, because not everybody's time frame is your time frame. Not everybody in business needs stuff done at the time you do. And when you try to be a good sales rep, to be a good business person, you want to accommodate people that you're working with, and you don't ever want to taint the relationship by trying to force something that's not supposed to happen at the right time. So my rule of thumb, which in the rest of our team, is like you approach any meeting or any opportunity that you have, and you work around their schedule. You give as much, or their time frame, I should say, you give them as much arsenal as you possibly can to pitch them, to show them why you're the best at what you do, because they won't forget about you. And you always check in, you always keep that relationship game going, which is where my role in the marketing agency really plays a role here. And you just stay true to that stuff, because it's just like a 401k. It's just like a savings account for people. You start early and you just keep putting a little bit of money in, a little bit of money in. That money makes more money for you down the road, but it takes time. Same thing with sales, same thing with business and growing clients. Hey, keep talking these conversations. The conversations are what turn to money down the road. And that's what really with the situation we're at. We're at a point where financially all three of us are in a great spot. We're going to continue running the rest of 2021 extremely lean, as if we're broke. And we're going to do some investment opportunities. We're going to, double, triple down, quadruple down on marketing things, and really grow the shit out of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that is a big topic for us that is I'm still kind of getting used to, is because I've seen so many colleagues of mine or people I've known or looked up to break off and start their own marketing companies, and 10 out of 10 of them, they start in a situation where it's a 2 to 3 people, and you're knocking on doors, cold calling. Do you need new websites? Do you need anything? Can we do anything for you? And you have to start at a very certain tier of client. And with our situation, that's still kind of bonkers to me, in my opinion, but it makes all the sense in the world with the foundation you laid. Is, we're starting out with a network of C-level business owners throughout the East Coast who have purchased suits from you and or find a lot of value in you and your entrepreneurial journey. We're starting out with professional athletes and celebrities that also have their own companies that are connected to you. So it's just kind of this nuclear bomb head start that we've had, where, in the beginning I was thinking, okay, we're starting that agency. We're going to be starting with Bob's Auto Garage and a dry cleaner down the street. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but where I came from the whole last 15 years of my career was working with Fortune 500 companies that have budgets in the millions. So to go from that to working on, something small, it just was weird to me. But the fact that we came in swinging with some really big opportunities on day one, I knew we were set up for success with that, with all the foundation you laid in the 6 years previous.
And what's so really cool about all this stuff is everything that we've done over the last 10 years has all led to these opportunities. So a lot of people always call me, hey, I want to start this. I want to do this. I don't think I'm ready, or I have this going on, or I have that going on. Here's the deal. Just fucking start. Because the faster you start something, the quicker you understand how to fail. And by failing allows you to skip, you may go up to level 1, then level 2, level 3, you're back to level 1, then up to 2 to the 5, to back to 3, right? But as you get through that first 10 levels of business in the game of business, then once you get to 10, 12, you're not going back from 10 to 5, you're going back to 10 to 9, 10 to 9.5, and so on. So because the education that you've experienced with that is what allows you to figure out that business is very, very hard, which I said it before, but it's also easy. You just have to have the patience and not want the instant gratification, because if anybody's in business for instant gratification, they're going to fail. There's no such thing.
Yep.
So, and I think now we have a good understanding of what's happening with all of our clients. And, Chris, with your background in the marketing world, I always appreciated your feedback, because you give us the transparency of what our expectations should be if it wasn't the situation that we're in. And obviously it's just different than anything you've seen, purely just by partnering in a different business capacity.
Yeah. I mean, this week we had a call with a potential client that could have been a very, very large opportunity that would have been something we would be all about. And on the introductory call, the potential client was just frankly an absolute asshole.
He was a total douchebag.
Probably one of the bigger pieces of shits that I think I've ever encountered in marketing, or somebody that is an owner of a company. And, where we are, it would be very easy for us to say, you know what, we'll deal with it. We'll just take it. And, we need all the clients we can. But I've seen clients like that, and they might become like that person 3 years into the relationship.
Or 3 days after the contract signed.
Exactly. So if this introductory call is how his tone is, imagine what it's going to be 8 months from now, or the first time there's a difficult conversation or something.
Yeah.
What's that going to be like? Is that going to be worth it? So, and that's where I talked to Derek, our other business partner, yesterday about, I've been part of teams where we have had to fire clients, because we have so much pride in what we do and enjoy what we do and love so many of the clients we work with, that if somebody like that comes in, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And to give people an idea of the scope of that, right? So the potential on that monthly value to us as a business could have been $20,000, I don't know, $100,000 a month at some point.
Yeah, but
it's not worth it.
The foundation we've built and the philosophies and virtues that are important to us personally and in business, somebody like that, there's no price tag.
Yeah. He could have given us $1 million a month and I would have said, no, not interested.
Nope.
Yeah. And that's what's really cool. And that's what's great about, you and Derek, is that we're all aligned the same way from the core of who we are. It's not, money is obviously we all want money, right? You need money to live and function and to do shit you want to do, but money is not the driving factor. And so many people get screwed up in this mindset of, I want to do stuff because I want this Lamborghini or I want this Ferrari. Like, I want that shit too, and eventually I'm gonna have it. But if I don't have it, I don't care. Like that's just a toy to play around with. It means nothing. It's useless. It doesn't add any value. Cool, whatever. And you don't want to become a slave to money or to somebody else from an ownership standpoint, where they're treating you like shit. They're disrespecting you. That's the benefit of being a business owner and a person in a decision situation is. Look, how much do you love your flexibility you have now? There's no dollar value there.
No. And actually, I'm reminded, this morning I was reminded of a YouTube video that I share every year on Facebook, and the memories reminded me of it today, which was one of the famous quotes from David Bowie back in the 90s when somebody asked him about why he's able to just kind of stay very weird and very much himself in his career and keep pushing his career forward. And his philosophy was never play to the gallery, never let anybody own you, and always stay in the little bit of the dangerous deep water. Because if you stay safe where nobody can, where you always feel calm, where you're familiar, you're going to get stuck. But when you kind of go out into that deep and you feel your legs dangling with nothing below it, that's where you really kick into a new gear where you really find what you're looking for. And so that was important to me as a musician. But now in this era of life, I listen to that today and it still spoke to me the same exact way. Stay true to yourself and your laurels and what you're built on. And part of that is the freedom now to not have, there's no hierarchy above us.
Yep.
And that's something I know I've been longing for a decade and a half, and to finally be here where I can still be my own weird self. I can still decide if I want to play a game of Xbox before I start my day.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
It puts me in the right mindset to get into things, and I don't have to be in an office at a certain time or anything. There's nobody bearing down on me other than myself, and that's who I want to be behind me.
Yeah, which is awesome, because the trust that the three of us have with one another and what we're doing, man, like, I don't care what you guys do when you do it. I hope you take time to do those things. I hope you take time off to do those things. And hey, I want to run here and handle that. Cool. Because not having a 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever it is. And, you're here in this bottle for a certain amount of time, and that's when you're expected to get your work done. But the quality of life is just so much different. And maybe if you wake up Tuesday and you're like, "Fuck, I just feel like shit." Okay, cool. I'm gonna just have a coffee and just sit on the couch for an extra hour. Okay, but I'm gonna make that hour up tenfold later on or in some other capacity, because every hour that I work and focus is it's all effort for what I'm trying to do.
And another big piece that is part of the I think the unfortunate leash on a 9 to 5 life, which is for what I do, it comes from all over. It doesn't come from sitting in front of a computer from a certain amount of time. When I'm at my computer, that's when I'm executing stuff that I came up with and thought about 3 days earlier, where I had no devices near me. And pretty much this whole past week actually was probably 60% pencil and paper. And then the last 3 days was all computer executing everything I just jotted down through sketching.
And just kind of just working on the protein bar stuff, or?
Yeah, that and some other client work, and just some personal ideas too I want to execute on. But the whole point there is that, creativity and marketing ideas or business ideas can come from anywhere in anything you're doing in life. And that's why I really couldn't do that sitting in front of a desk for a required amount of time every day, when I knew that life was out there, and that's where things come to me.
Yeah.
And I like to travel a lot and get into weird situations and things, because I know that I'm absorbing something from everywhere I go, every experience I have. It just goes into the lockbox of ideas and things that bounce around, and then they can match up, and some insight comes out that I would never have come up with if I didn't do those few things or something. So being able to have the freedom to go experience life and then pull that back into what you're executing for clients or for ourselves. It's I can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah. And now that we're kind of as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you climb and you climb and you climb, and every day you're just going against obstacles after obstacles, and you don't know when ever anything's going to actually happen. So it's so crazy from a mental capacity or mindset standpoint that you hit these different benchmarks along the way. Okay, cool. What's happiness? Cool. Happiness is just freedom to do what you want, to be able to come and go, to be able to pay your bills, to live a good life, to not give too many things up, blah, blah, blah. Well, then you get to the next step in entrepreneurship or business. Okay, now I'm actually making a couple dollars. I'm able to put some money away. I'm paying off debt. So you're still digging while you're still climbing to get to the other end of the wall or up the mountain or whatever it is. And then now we're on the other side, or the where it's starting to really be enjoyable from a stress-free financial standpoint, right? And I actually had breakfast with my dad this morning, and I was telling him, I was like, for the last how many years, I didn't know how, you don't know how many suits are going to be sold the next month. You just don't. That's something you just can't project. So everything that we've done in the last 5 years has been, man, just keep grinding, scraping. We need another suit. All right, how can I get it? Let me try to do this. All right, we need to hit this number. I need to get 5 more of these or 10 more shirts or whatever. And you're trying to build these things. And then now, okay, cool. Let's breathe. Let's set up a plan of action for the entire 2021, and let's run this like a true business. And that's what's fun and exciting, is because now when you stop having to focus about money, which is the number one thing that kills business. You could be a great business owner, but if you don't have access to capital, if you don't know how to get capital, if you can't get capital, eventually you're going to fail. That money will run out. So it's just a matter of, in 2017, whenever it was the rock bottom for me, that was the lowest point of my entire life. And I had the darkest thoughts in my life. I was miserable. I just trusted that it would work out. 3 years later, going on, 2021 now, where we are, it's crazy. Everything that I went through was justified and warranted. And it makes me appreciate things. I lived a different life before I did this. Now I live a completely different life. I'm focused on things differently. I'm looking at how do I turn money into more money, and how do I connect people? How do I help more people? And how do I just get involved more? Because what I've gobbled up over the years is the appreciation and understanding and the want for business to be a hobby too. Mm-hmm. And it's really fucking awesome. It's fun.
And I imagine back in that 2017 time frame, when it felt like the low of low, you ended up coming back with a vengeance, and the work ethic was probably even more intense, because again, in that suiting side of things, you control how much money you can make and how many things you can sell based on how much dedication can you put in each day. And that's where the ceiling is on the 9-to-5 life versus the entrepreneurial life and startup life. Is, you can work your ass off in a 9-to-5, but nothing's going to change from how much you put into that day. Versus when you're working for yourself, if you bust ass for that entire day, you reap those benefits. You're not just throwing that into a pool for other people to make money from. And that's been a big driver for me to make me want to put in those long hours, like you did in the suiting world. And now being able to see that from my side of things, knowing that, if I put in 22 hours of, billable time, that's money that's coming in. Right. Versus if I put 22 hours of work in any of my past agency lives, you're still only getting paid for that 8, yeah. But you're doing it for the hope of more and the hope of a ladder and things like that. And I mean, this past year in 2020, I paid off all my debt.
Yep. It was probably the most money you've made in one splash, I would assume.
Yeah, but I mean, my whole adult life prior was you just keep going to that job, keep working hard, and eventually you'll slowly take chunks out of debts and things like that, versus now in a startup world, bust your ass on big things, reap those benefits, and then pay that debt down with a bazooka rather than a water gun.
Yeah.
You know?
So I was talking, I think the other day, Monday or whatever, over the weekend, within the last week or so, and I was calculating some numbers about what did I really give up to start things. And if you figure I was making about $250,000 a year, and it's taken me 5 years to get where we are, it's $1 million. I gave up almost 200,000 of my savings, so 1.2 million roughly. Took out anybody that would give me money, and when I was running out, that's who I went to. I tried, hey, I got this. Can I get 10,000? Can I get 40,000? Can I get 20,000? Right? And I had to, because banks they wanted nothing to do with me at that point, which is so crazy because banks want you when you have money, but when you need help, they don't. Right? So it's an interesting thing. But so I look at the scale of 5 years. I've probably given up potentially 1.5 to $2 million. Total, not net or anything of that nature, but it was well worth going through that to get to this point, to get on the other side of things, and to now see, okay, all that shit that we went through paid off. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned about seeing what I've been through. I'm assuming that helped you with the trust of this business, and with when I come out with stupid ass crazy ideas, it makes you understand where I'm coming from a little bit more, and that we can knock them out too.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest moments I still sometimes joke about with you is I remember I was at a coffee shop here in the South Side at night, some cold winter night kind of thing, just working on some stuff casually, and I was getting calls and texts from you in a kind of a panic mode, because you were going through maybe one of the most adverse situations of your journey while you were in New York with something with the WWE. And I remember trying to put myself in your shoes of what you were experiencing, and just being like, I'm pretty calm and everything, and I have my mantras, but I feel like that might be putting me to a spot where I might lose it.
Yeah, fuck.
So I think it might be worth kind of talking about that a little bit, because that's where I first envisioned myself in your shoes, and that was kind of scary.
Yeah, so WWE, those of you that don't follow the clothing or anything like that, I have a pretty great relationship with WWE. I've been working with them and their athletes since 2000, I guess end of 2015, going into 2016, so 5-6 years now. And I've started with one athlete, then 10 athletes, then 30 athletes, then 40 or 50 athletes. And now it graduated onto projects and partnerships. And we actually had an opportunity to pitch WWE on an official partnership with David Allen Clothing. It didn't work out, and it was the best thing not working out. They're a great organization, and they have certainly gave me a huge platform to grow this in a great capacity. But I get a call from them, and I think this was 2017, the springtime. And they WWE executives contacted me, and they called me and they said, hey, we want you to collaborate David Allen Clothing with Kentucky Fried Chicken. And what their goal and what their attempt at doing was turning wrestlers. At that time, I think KFC was doing a bunch of massive projects where they would have a different KFC or different Colonel Sanders every month or every 2 months, and it was a huge campaign that they were doing. So they tapped into the WWE market at that point and wanted to utilize some of their iconic wrestlers. So I got a call on a Wednesday. I was flying to Tampa Bay, and there was a big event, I think, on a Sunday, and I got a call, and I was supposed to do a suit for Colonel Sanders. Was going to be Ric Flair. And at that time, it was when he got I think he was I don't know if it was a coma, or I can't remember exactly what happened, but he got sick and he was on life support and he almost died. So, I'd put together this beautiful package, this presentation for him. And then a week before the big event on pay-per-view, I think that one was in Brooklyn. The news came out that Ric Flair was, potentially going to die. And it was like, holy shit, number one, wow, that's, terrible, terrifying. And everybody knows he's really tested his body to the limits through his years and enjoyed his career. But then I was like, well, in my selfish entrepreneurial endeavor, was like, damn, that was an opportunity for me to take this to get instant success or another level of success or whatever it was. So I was flying I had to go to Tampa Bay to do some things with a couple of the WWE wrestlers on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to Tampa. And then Friday night I was flying up to Brooklyn to do whatever the pay-per-view event was on Sunday in Brooklyn for WWE. And that was when the big partnership was going to go on display. Well, I'm in the airport in Pittsburgh and I'm flying to Tampa and I get a call from WWE and it's like, hey, how quickly can you turn a suit around? We're going to switch Colonel Sanders and Shawn Michaels is now going to take over and do Colonel Sanders. They're like, do you have your sewing machine with you? And at that time I was like, yeah, I got everything with me. Knowing damn well the sewing machine wasn't going to help. I wasn't going to be able to convert a suit at any capacity in that time frame or do anything at all. But I just said, okay, yeah, I'll do it and I'll figure it out. So I started brainstorming. I talked to one of my partners, on the manufacturing side, and I said, hey, here's the situation. What can we do? And so we were able to turn around a vest and a pair of pants in 24 hours, ship that to get to Brooklyn. So I'm flying up to Brooklyn on a Friday and I'm okay, great. Everything's awesome. I see the shipping notification and I'm like, holy shit, we pulled this off. In 2 days, we were able to make this for a huge opportunity. This is going to be fantastic.
And that it's for the famous stark white Colonel Sanders
correct
suit, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So they were literally, it was everything was white out. But it was putting the white suit and then the flare of the, no pun with that, but the aura of who the wrestler was, right? And bringing that presentation into the product. So there was kind of a unique spin on it. So I'm all, I'm happy it gets there. So I fly up to Brooklyn. I meet some of the wrestlers. I'm hanging in my hotel room, go to bed, wake up the next day. And 11 o'clock was the time they were going to try everything on. So I get a text at like 10:30. I'm having a coffee. It was a beautiful day in Brooklyn. I'm walking around. All of a sudden I get a text from the executive and they're like, this isn't the right color. And in my head, I'm like, no, it's white. It's the right color. And it was an off-white, like an eggshell white type color. And they wanted pure white for the KFC to make sure everything was standard. And now you're working with another massive organization who that's what it is. There's no any way around that. So the lady was like, hey, it's no big deal. I get it under these circumstances. But, we're not interested in using this. We're just going to go somewhere else and buy a suit. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. You're not going to do that. So the event wasn't until Sunday. So I knew I had about 24 hours to figure out what the hell I was going to do. And I was tough. This was a really difficult situation. So I finally get there. It probably didn't get in front of anybody till about 1 or 2 p.m. And it was a Saturday, and so it's already getting later in the day. So I go and meet Shawn Michaels. I go and meet the KFC team. I go and meet the WWE team, and I look at the outfit. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just take it. I'll figure this out. So right across from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn is a Target, and I think that's might have been, or maybe I called you one of the nights or something before. I can't remember exactly, but there was a Target right there, and it's right in this little plaza, literally right across the street from the Barclays Center. And so I go in there, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe if I just bleach the suit, that would be a simple way to turn it from eggshell white to pale white. And then if it hits anything that, like a button that shouldn't have been a certain color, it's not going to hurt it, whatever. It's not the end of the day. So I go buy a bucket. I buy a bottle of bleach, and I buy rubber gloves. Take that back to my hotel room. Now it's 4 o'clock, 4:30, something like that. And thankfully, I was like, okay, why don't I just put the leg of, like, the bottom cuff of the pant in the bleach and let it sit there and see what happens. If 20 minutes pass and the suit is white, I'm going to just dump the whole thing in there and soak that in my hotel room. So I put the pan in there, I wait the 20 minutes, and I pull it out, and the pan is now falling apart. So the bleach literally started eating the damn pair of pants. So I start freaking out again. I'm like, oh shit, like, now I told them not to go buy another suit from somebody else. And I said, I'll handle this. So now my name is on top of this even more. Mm-hmm. And everything started closing for some reason. So now their limited options they had nothing to do. The only option was to make this work. So by this time, 5:30 or so, and it's getting later and later, I get in an Uber and I go down to, I actually called a couple people to pick their brain on, hey, how do I paint fabric? How do I dye fabric? What kind of options do we actually have here? So somebody ended up telling me about this dye, RIT fabric dye. And so I called this one Michaels place in Manhattan, and nothing was open in Brooklyn, of course. For some reason, everything was closed, so I had to go to Manhattan to get anything. So I go to Manhattan and I look, and the girl's like, no, we actually don't have any more in the store. So now, it's like 45 minutes to get there, and now it's, a little bit later in the day. So I'm constantly watching the clock, and then also starting to panic about like, fuck, like this is, if I do this, I could lose all the relationships that I've built so far, and my name is stapled all over this. So keep going, keep figuring out. So ended up working with a girl that was at Michael's, and she was she was in high school, and she just knew everything about the crafts and all this other stuff. And she suggested this fabric spray paint. Well, I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's give it a try. I need to cover 8 to 10 yards of fabric. How many bottles am I going to need? Like 15 bottles or 13 bottles or something like that. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take them all. She goes, well, we have one. And I was like, wait, do you have one? So then she was fortunate. She was super kind, and she ended up going online and finding out. But the fact that I had to then go to 3 different Michaels locations to get 4 here, 2 here, 3 there. So by the time I'm running around all these places, it's now 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and all these stores are closing. So at this point, if this didn't work, it's over. There's really nothing. And then Sunday, everything opens a little bit later in Brooklyn too. So none of the stores were open. So I knew that if this didn't work out, I was in trouble. So then I take the 12 cans of spray paint back to my hotel room, and I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. This is the last opportunity that we have. So I went into the bathroom, I shut the door, I bring in the rubber gloves, I bring in the bucket, I bring in the Clorox, the bleach, all that stuff. I bring in the spray paint. And then I remember grabbing a hanger from the closet inside there, and I hang the suit. I started with the pant first, and I hung it on the shower rod, opened that up and hung it in there. So I'm just spray painting the shit out of this thing, and it's coming out like glittery and glossy and all this other stuff. And I'm like, it's giving a shimmer to it. Maybe that's going to work. Maybe it's not. And it wasn't like a pure white, of course. So, well, then I'm like, all right, cool, let's get this done. Take the pant, put it in the other room, and then I throw the jacket on and I start spray painting the jacket in the room. So now I have all these fumes. I'm sick as a dog. I have the worst headache in the world. The fumes aren't escaping the hotel room at all. And I just let it sit. I let it dry, and I let it dry, and I'm like, oh, fuck, it's spotty. It looked terrible. I was like, all right, coat number 2. So this is like 11 p.m. now on that Saturday, and I'm doing coat number 2 of this paint job that I don't know if it's going to even fucking work or embarrass the shit out of me. So I do the paint job, and I get it done, and all right, cool. I think I can get this. This may work. Jacket starts stiffening up. Pants start stiffening up. So now it's no longer feeling like a suit. So I just start grabbing it, crinkling it up once it dries, and I try to just break it up and crack it to just soften everything on the paint, because I had to put so many layers on. So I got it soft enough where, fortunately, the harder part was on the exterior of the pant. So when you put them on, you could still feel that it was a pant, so it was smoother and it wasn't a big issue. So I remember I hung the suit up, shut the bathroom door, kept it in there, and I went to bed. I literally was so sick. I felt like I wanted to throw up, and I was like, all right, now there's nothing else I can do at this point. It's not in my hands. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I gave it one fucking hell of an effort. I take the suit out of the bathroom, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I hold it up in the light that's shining in from the bedroom, because I wanted a natural light to make sure I would see everything. And then all of a sudden I see spots again, and I'm like, shit. But the rest of the suit started forming, so I was like, okay, I think this is actually going to work. So I spray painted a couple more times. I wait an hour. I get a text from the WWE team, hey, can you meet us, right? So I go, and they're like, okay, be here at, between 11 and 11:30. So I get over there at 11 o'clock. They don't show up until about 12 or 12:30. So they didn't even try the outfit on yet. The fact of the matter is they just looked at it, saw it was the wrong color. I had no idea if the thing was going to even fit. So and it's funny reliving all this stuff because I haven't talked about it. I was never allowed to really talk about this because I needed to build the credibility of me, the brand, and the business. But I always wanted to share the story, so I appreciate you kind of bringing that up. But so then I remember, this is the first time I really got to meet Shawn Michaels, who was a legend in the WWE community. Very genuine, great human being. And, you had the KFC production team, you had the executives from WWE in the green room, and we're trying to get all this stuff done. And they start wheeling in the clothing. And on this rack over here was the suit that I did. And then two things behind it were KFC branded things. They made a pair of chaps for him that were leather and they were super sick. And so all these elements are there. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know if these people know, but I just painted this in my hotel room. And this is $1 billion business. And I'm sure another $1 billion business or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So, clearly I'm the outlier. And just said, all right, cool. Just act like you've been here before. And it felt so rewarding to watch everything unfold. I got some behind the scene photos. I got to see him try it on and everything. Well, boom, here comes the try on. Throws the pants on. The pants actually worked. They fit well enough because it was a costumey, gimmicky type thing. They didn't have to be perfect. They just had to be close enough. Well, the vest and how I am is I want everybody to be super happy. Telling people no, I'm not a big fan of, even though maybe I need to start getting better at that as a business owner and an entrepreneur. But sometimes saying no is better, right? But hey, the vest is tight, and he wanted this sleek look, and he's like, can you change this? And I said, yeah, I'll knock that out, no problem. I didn't have a sewing machine with me. I didn't know what to do in that situation. And then the event was in 2 hours or 2.5 hours from that point. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get that, no problem. So I take the suit off of them and I just go back to my hotel room, and then I'm like, fuck, now what? I Google, and by this time it's late afternoon or so. It might have been 3 to 4 o'clock in that time frame by now. I can't really recall, but I know it was definitely later in the day, because then what I started doing was, all right, next step is get this altered. I don't have anything here. What am I going to do? I get on Google, I start looking. Every tailor in Brooklyn was closed, and the ones that were open would only work on garments that they've made or sold to you. So they wouldn't even help. I told them the situation. A lot of them didn't speak English as well, so they didn't know what was really even happening, what type of questions. And I called, I Googled another tailor that was in Manhattan. So I take the tailor a 45-minute trip to Manhattan, knowing that I'm under the gun. I have 2.5 to 3 hours to get this done, and that's it. And this is the last straw. So I finally get to Manhattan, and I go to this tailor, and I walk in, and hey, here's the situation. I'm in a big problem. I need help. Can you help? What's the problem? I tell him about everything, and he's like, yeah, no problem at all. I'll get this done. I'll prioritize it. I'm like, thank you so much. Like, you have no idea how much I appreciate it. And he's like, well, so when do you need it by? And I said, as soon as possible, whatever you can do. He goes, how's Tuesday? And I was like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, I need it like now. Can you stop? Hey, stranger, can you stop everything you're doing and let this weirdo that just walked in with a Kentucky Fried suit? Mm-hmm. Can you stop what you're doing to trust somebody? And for whatever reason, he just said, hey, come back in an hour. So I ended up grabbing some food, just sitting out in Manhattan. It was a chilly but beautiful day, and I remember just sitting there, just thinking, like, it was quiet because it was a Sunday. There wasn't a lot of traffic. I'm looking around the city, and I'm just taking everything in, and I'm like, holy shit, all of this in 24 hours, right? And go back. The guy charged me like $25. I gave him like $300. Is like, hey, thank you. Like, you're the best, whatever. I start getting texts from WWE. Hey, where you at? We need you here, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'll be right there. Well, right there is a 45-minute Uber ride back. So throughout all this, I probably spent $300 in Ubers because of the expense in Manhattan, everywhere I was running, the expense of the product, the tailoring, all this stuff. So it's obviously a lost money on the project. But the experience, then I go and I deliver the suit to them, and he puts it on, and it just looked so perfect. And the trust that WWE from that point on, they don't know what I did. They have no clue. Nobody knew. And this is the first time I've actually publicly talked about it, because it was just so crazy and so overwhelming, but you just keep going. So I don't bask in these things, in these situations, but it's a story that I love sharing, because my name was on the line. Everything about it, everything I've stood for from day one with them was on the line. My reputation of, hey, you know, I'd sit in catering and I just set up fabric at every event I want to go to. It doesn't matter if it's WrestleMania that the tickets are thousands of dollars or a Monday Night Raw event where they're $30. I get to go backstage. I get to eat with everybody. I get to hang out with everybody, and I get to feel like a part of a community and a family. And they respected the hell out of me, and it was really cool. So I was worried that I would lose all of that. And I was worried that as my bank account was hemorrhaging, I would lose all of that. And I was worried that my name would get trashed in the athlete community if I fucked that project up and if I wasn't able to pull that off. So it was so much more than getting this suit on somebody. It was what we talked about earlier. It's the mindset. It's the just keep going. It's not getting too high. It's not getting too low. And it's when you teach yourself to learn to fly in the middle of the spectrum and to be able to not celebrate too much, but not be too bummed down at yourself, because the pain is far greater than the success. The success feels great, but the pain is 10 times worse than that. And I forgot, man, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was such a monumental time for me as an entrepreneur. And a lot of these situations happened, and it's those things that just say, okay, I could do it. I could do anything. And that's allowing us to be successful in the marketing, because that's a mindset for all of us.
And having gone through that, now you probably look back, it's fun to talk about. It's kind of funny, like I'm laughing at it because it's a funny situation. But now if something of that caliber were to happen again, different situation or whatever in any of the businesses, you're going to be a lot calmer. You're going to kind of, like I always say, take a breath, find the solution. Don't just dive right into figuring something out. Take a second for yourself to breathe and then come up with something.
Yeah.
And I think you certainly lived that with it's logistics. It's there might be a series of different ways you could go about that, but you kind of trusted your instinct. And, like you said, even having to go those 45-minute trips between, that's a calculated risk in theory, unless you were just going from your gut, and then it's not necessarily calculated. You're just trusting yourself. And I know that's been a big piece of your route in business, and certainly something Derek and I share too, which is kind of when it feels right, and when something feels off, it's off. So, sometimes your gut instinct has been a true north, I think, in a lot of different decision making we do with you and you on your own. So I think, is there something that a business owner or entrepreneur that's just starting out and they might not have that type of trust in their gut, and everything for them is only dollars and cents, it's only black and white, it's only if this doesn't work, everything's over. So what advice would you give to that entrepreneur to say there's some stuff that you can't necessarily put your hand on, or something in a spreadsheet that really you should try and lean on a little bit?
Yeah, so Derek is a very analytical, numbers-driven individual, right? And I'm not. I'm just not. I'm getting better, and I'm learning in that capacity. But I will take my trust in myself and my trust in my vision and decision making over any numbers any day. And I don't mean that from an arrogant standpoint or anything else. I just genuinely mean that from a standpoint of I trust myself more than anything. I trust myself more than science, data, all that stuff, to an extent, right? And so my advice to anybody that's going through some form of a situation like that, they're all educated and calculated risks, and the percentage of risk is dependent on who the person is and who the individual is. To me, I was 100% going to figure that out. I just didn't know the mode at that point. So fortunately there was enough time, 24 hours, which is not much at all, but it wasn't, hey, I need this in 2 seconds, and there was no opportunity to figure it out. So you always want to step back and say, what's the severity of this happening? How much can I potentially lose, or what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm not going to die. I'm not going to go bankrupt. I'm not going to lose this, right? But for business decisions, sometimes you do have to make those decisions. Hey, this opportunity, this business venture could end up taking this much money out of my life, or it could hurt me in this capacity. So any opportunity that I have, what my personal tips and preference on what I do is I analyze the situation. I see what type of potential detriment can it do to myself or the business or the brand or anybody around, if any, right? And then do I really think I could pull it off? And then you just sit back and you say, hey, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Now we figure out a plan to do this. And if I don't have a step B, if I'm on step A, until step A doesn't work, and then I figure out step B. So you always kind of got to think, hey, okay, there's options in here, but I don't want to do step B. I want to do step A because that's the most efficient at that time in my processing of what the situation is, right? So I think that's it. I mean, trusting yourself as an entrepreneur is the hardest thing because self-awareness is so crucial. And I think so many people lack self-awareness in situations. And I think that's what hurts a lot of business, is that people aren't aware of situations. They're not aware of who they are. They're not aware of, hey, just work at it and figure that out. Mm-hmm. And dude, I just trust myself. And you have to as a business owner, and you have to as an entrepreneur, or if you don't, all the people chipping away at you saying, hey, why'd you do this? Why did you go here? Why'd you start your own business? Oh, you think that's going to be successful, or you think that's going to fail? I don't care what you think. I don't. And I do that same thing. Even my close friends who are mentors of mine, there's a few of them that I'll take advice from because I want to hear what they have to say, because then I take that data and I process that internally, I chew it up, and then I spit it out, and then I make a decision that I want to make. Because when you ask other people for business, they're not in your business every single day. They don't know what's going on in the day-to-day to your business. So I'm the only one that can make that decision. But I do appreciate the value. I do appreciate your feedback. And now thank you for sharing that. I know you have experience, but I'm now going to ignore that and I'm going to do my thing. And it's no knock on anybody else. It's just you live in your shoes. They don't. And I think that's huge for us. Mm-hmm. Have to.
You said something in there that made me think of a pretty good metaphor as far as, not being afraid of any type of failure. And in that situation, like with the WWE in Brooklyn, it was an adverse situation that made you stronger. And, anybody that's done any type of strength training is, how do you get your body stronger? You do it with resistance. And, that whole philosophy is really true in being a business owner and an entrepreneur, or because those failures, those very high points of adversity are building those muscles that are going to make the next situation seem very light. And, resistance training in the physical sense is you're breaking down muscles to rebuild them even stronger. So from a business standpoint, looking at any type of situation that is stressful as hell, and even the ones that feel like a failure, you are becoming a stronger business owner because of it. And that's something that was hard for me to kind of understand, coming from the agency life employee to now an owner. But that's something I've been hearing you beat that drum for years and years and years. But now I completely am ingrained in it, because for my philosophy before all that was everything must be perfect at all times, and if it needs to take extra time to be perfect, then that extra time needs to be there. Never put something out unless it's perfect. Or from a music standpoint, if you need to stay in the studio an extra month to get it perfect, it has to be perfect. Push back that delivery date, rather than it's at a good point, go.
Yeah.
And then let it work itself out in stages B and C, rather than making sure it's perfect in A. Now, there's different industries where that can't be the case. Making cars,
right? Yeah, of course,
better be perfect on A.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that's a strong learning that now I can talk to other business owners and actually, practice what I preach in that now because I've lived it. Whereas I remember, you and I probably butted heads on that over the years of it's got to go, it's got to go, it's got to go out. Nope, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect.
How often do you? We have this long running joke between each other, and Chris sends me something that's already on social media.
Yeah, I mean, still sometimes I'm kind of dumbfounded about it. Like if it's on the in advertising and creative, we call something a comp. The definition of that is it was thrown together in 5 minutes. It's not perfect. There's probably some weird lines on it. It's just a prototype.
Right.
Those prototypes are all over your social media feeds because it's and I get it now. It's here's what we're working on. Here's what's coming. It's okay to show part of your hand, I've always liked the saying of, when somebody's asking you tons of questions and it feels like they are trying to get your secret sauce, your secret ingredient, it's good to tell them something, but don't tell them everything you know.
Yeah. And I've lived with the mindset, like I said last time, like I want to share the bads. I want to share the goods. I want to be super transparent about everything. And we talk pretty freely. I probably shared 90% of things, 85% of things. Mm-hmm. And there's some things you just I have a couple of things that I consider my secret sauce that really, really are unique assets that are helpful. But they're the way I want to run business, and they're the core of who I am and what my true gut instinct is on being successful. So I feel that the 10, 15, 20% or whatever that I keep, it's unique to me because of who I am. Other people wouldn't utilize it, and other people, you don't need to know everything, but because it's such a messy and interesting game behind the scenes, for sure.
It's kind of like steer them in the right direction. Tell them what they might need along the way, but you're not going to draw them the map.
Yeah, one thing that really irritates me is I'll get people that hit me up and say, "Hey, can we talk business?" And I love that. Like I love helping people. If anybody needs anything, shoot me a DM. You want to chat business? We'll talk for a few minutes. If I can help, I'll give you a couple of tips. But I've had, and I will meet certain people if they want help and truly want help. But if a question is, hey, how do you create an LLC or how do you do this? It's like you don't even have the audacity to go to Google and search something. Yeah. Don't even get involved. Go work for someone else because you don't have what it takes. I mean, it's that simple. So,
and I mean, that's the stuff that anybody can find on their own and have resources for. The true value of somebody coming to you in that situation is to talk about the intangibles, the mindset, the struggles with adversity and how to overcome that stuff. That's where a lot of the true commodity is to gain, because anybody can figure anything out.
So, just kind of wrapping things up here. I figured we could try something a little bit different. I'd like to know, you're wrapping up on our conversation that we had, 2 points from you. Basically your top 2 tips, strategies from being a newer, full-time entrepreneur, the top 2 things that you think are the most prioritized in the success of that, and then the top 2 benefits that you think you have in your life, whatever capacity they are, in any capacity, those 2 kind of points.
For the first 2, I would say it's that committing to give your waking energy to what needs to happen, and knowing that you are no longer in that clock in, clock out philosophy, and that the success or failure leans on your actions every single day. So when you're starting to feel like, you know what, I can just take it easy tonight and I'll get that done tomorrow. That mindset has to change to, I can't call today a day until all that stuff is done, because there's a whole wave coming tomorrow, and that wave is going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger, so you have to stay ahead of it. So that's kind of been my biggest learning so far that I would definitely tell people about. And the other tip is, start to learn the aspects of the business and the entrepreneurial side of things that maybe you think you don't have to worry about, or you just don't want to worry about. Because I always use a triangle philosophy of no matter what you're doing, there's three ends of that triangle in business. There's a how well you work with people. There is how well you're able to do your specific role and the knowledge of that. And then three is financials. So as long as you come in with a grounding of two of those three things, you can always learn that third one. And for me personally, I work great with people and I know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm terrible with math and financials. I want nothing to do with. But now that I'm in a business owner standpoint, I want to know the financials of everything. I want to know the P&L. I want to see everything. And I wanted my creative brain to adapt and learn with that stuff. So I think that's a piece of advice I would give people is, you're always going to be good at what you're good at, but you should know how the other things work.
Yeah.
And then as far as what's kind of been the benefit now, it's 100% the freedom, just to live life the way you want to, not the way that you have to fit it in. And I told somebody this week that it literally feels like unplugging from the Matrix, and the blinders are off, and you kind of forgot what it was like to just be on your own time. Whatever you want to do, you can do. You still have to get everything done that you need to get done, but how you do it is up to you, not anybody else. And there's no price tag on that. And then the other one is probably the pride that comes with putting things out there into the world that has your reputation on it, not the reputation of a logo that's somebody that isn't you. And that I've really taken great pride in, because like I said, if something requires me to put an extra 6 hours in when it's already 8 or 9 o'clock to make it worthy of my pride because my name's on the door, I won't even think about it. It's easy. So I think those two things combined have really just made this jump to entrepreneurship fun, rewarding, and really I can't imagine going back to being a 9-to-5er and making money for other people.
So, just kind of leaving you guys here with a few things. It's just, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, the flexibility, the freedom, the opportunity is all there. To get to that opportunity of all of those, to get to the point of benefit of all those situations, and to be in a spot of comfort, you don't get there if you don't go through hell. But I promise you, the part of going through hell and the other nasty experiences and nasty shit that you crawl through to get there educates you so much, and it really makes you somebody different. And they're battle scars that you'll be able to live forever. But those are the things that you talk about with other people that are entrepreneurs and business partners, and you appreciate those. Because without going through those things, you don't get to experience what we feel now on the other end of that. Every single thing I went through, the national debt relief, the credit card, getting taken away, the debt that I had to go into, the power that's been shut off at my house, how many times the water that's been shut out, and just keep going. So if you have something running, you keep rolling, don't stop. And, appreciate you guys as always. This has been a good conversation. This was fun, man.
Yeah. Let us know if you guys have any questions or topics you want us to cover, and we'll take care of those. And we've got a lot of cool guests coming up in future episodes. So it's only going to keep getting more engaging from here.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.